The number 120 times. Ah! Samus fought with Dark Samus for control. She could not believe she dumped her boyfriend. But it was too late. Or not. Dark Samus... You... Bad-mouthed Samus. Ha ha ha, little girl. The cholera will soon devour you, and I will control your body. Dark Samus snapped back. Samus snarled at her opponent and continued the battle that would determine the number 120 times. Cervantes and Samus went to many places that were cool, like Hot Topic, and other places that angsty cool people chill. They ate some things, but the date was over pretty quick than it had started. Samus remembered her first date with Ridley. But Dark Samus was in control, and there was no stopping the lust. "Let's go to my house," Cervantes proposed. Samus was weary of this request, but she was overcome with passion, and was battled by the cholera, her good judgment. There was little to do now, just hope. 120 ones. At Ridley's house, Ridley was depressed. He had wound up his relationship, and now he was listening to depressing music. He was afraid that he might become emo, and it was likely, more likely than he could think. He also was thinking about darker things, but it wasn't true. No, it was. No, it wasn't. This was Ridley's battle, and he had things to overcome as well, if he could. 120 ones. Samus was naked and passionate, just like that long ago. But it was different, because it wasn't Ridley, it was Cervantes. She was exploding in lust, but she kept feeling that it was wrong. But Dark Samus was in control. There was little she could do. This day had been a mind blow, and it was only going to get worse from here, she knew. As Samus fell asleep in Cervantes, murky thoughts cloud her mind. Dark, light, Ridley, Cervantes, love, lust, redemption.
What be ye pausing for now? Cling on all yourself to the next chapter now!
Yes. Chapter 6. Samus joins the football team. Prequel 1. Gring, gring, bang. What the whang? Samus Aran woke from slumber and realized the clock was broken. It was late for school. 1000. I'm late for tests. Samus qualmed as she dressed from her clothes. Samus was not the kind of girl who obsesses over clothes and popular songs, so she did not worry about appearances, even though she still was pretty smoking hot. At least Ridley, lol. Late again, is she? Snip quipped Mrs. Chozo. Samus is adopted, from unknown reasons like in games. No time for talks, ma'am. I must catch the bell. Samus average-teened and left Mrs. Chozo and her dog Sparky in dust, and even forgot her lunch. What are we going to do with you? Sarcasmed the missus. She turned on midwife shows like Dr. Phil and Judge Alex, and rhetorist with Sudoku. Not suicide, the game. Journey songs. 121s. Out of breath, Samus stealthed into homeroom in time, so her nun-teacher, Mother Brain, would not notice, and succeeded just like in Metroid Fusion. She sat down next to her friend, Amy, who was as pretty as Samus, but had light red hair that sparkled in sun. Amy was kinda obsessed with fantasy stuff, and was obsessed with dragons, and Harry Potter, and Dragon, and stuffs. They were just in time for announcements. And now the news, casted Principal Gunpei Yokoi. Today there are football trying-outs for every sex, even girls. Classrooms giggled about the word he said, but Sams was intrigued. Football was a sport for boys. But what about girls? After all, Amelia Armstrong made it clear that girls could do things as boys. So why not Samus, who was pretty good at the ball? Also, Kraid and gang, please no more of the hazing, or suspension will ensue. Rubber-stamped Principal Yokoi. That all is all. All of Samus' girlfriends, not the love kind, girls can be friends, not gay. We're talking about boys, and hot, and music. But Samus was phased, because she was thinking about football. Earth to Samus, Mandy levied. Ha ha ha. Oh, I mean, excuse me, to depart from the script. I found that joke amusing. Do you agree that Noxus is the hottest than even Zac Efron or Ted Emanuel? What will ya whatever? Samus coldly brushed and strode off for practice. What's her net? Was all girlfriends could wonder as Samus strolled down halls and signed over for practice. 121s. When Smouse signs up for trying football, an unexpected harassment of peer pressure happens. Ooh, Samus is joining the football team! Routled Craig and his crowny gang. They also made fun of Samus for parts of girls that are not to be spoken. Unexpectable! Scorned Mother Brain, since she was a nun, and she was not tolerant about jokes such as that. But it was too late, because everyone was laughing at Samus for being a girl for football. Even her girlfriend snicked a tad snavely. Samus was running away, but she heard a voice. Sounded shady, but well-meaning. Psst! You! Yeah, you! I have a solution. Avouched the voice. Samus looked, and it was Trace, a kid that seemed like he was more into sketchy than into school. If you want help, you'll need to talk to the game dude, Trace commanded. Take me, submissed Samus, who was kind of worried that the situation might turn into peer pressure and even drugs, but was eager for help for football. 121s. There were many people who were trying out at football, and practice was about to begin. But what about Samus? All of suddenly, a boy with a metal suit, even with a helmet and arm cannon and special features, came in. Everyone was surprised because they did not recognize the figure, and they thought the suit was Weong. But then Coach Houston came in. Okay, everyone, it looks like to begin. Since there are no girls, it looks like we can talk about sex and man stuff, Coach Houston womanized. Since boys are pigs, especially teens, everyone laughed loud and made sounds, except for Samus, who was trying to fit in and not seem uncomfortable. You, in the metal suit! What are your name, and what the Weong? Houston profaned. Samus shuffled her fet. My name's is Justin Bailey, and I have to have this suit because I am allergic to pollutants like global warming, stuttered Samus. Sap liberal, murmured Houston. Okay, anyway, take positions and play the ball. Everyone took positions. Samus decided to be a run-backer. Adam Malovich was a quarterback. Weevil, Spire, and Kraid were linbacks, and Keyhunter and Candon were a wide retriever. There were others, but unimportant. The game went well, and Samus was a star. Even Adam the quarterback was impressed. Hey Justin, we should hang sometime, you seem cool, Adam accepted her. He did not know Samus was a girl, but how would anyone? Okay, Samus' gruff voice masked, and was excited that Adam thought she was cool. Wow! Mr. Bailey, please come to my office, Houston bumbled. Samus was still in power suit, and went inside. There were footballs trophies, and a portrait of Gary Ford on the wall. Anne, my friend explained that Gary Ford was offered to be on the NFL, but decided to run to president instead. I don't know about history, but hey, not bad. Justin, you seem to be good at football, the coach complimented. Maybe you'll be the NFL, or even a lawyer. Yeah, I've got a doctorate, Samus white-lied. She left the coach and ran to change out of the power suit that was sweaty. She took a shower and then went to sleep. Some ones. The next day, there was a big game. The team was training, and Adam was taking time to know Justin. So, Justin, you must be new to MHS, Adam keenly observed. Samus was nervous, but nodded. That's cool. If you need any help, just call and I'll assist. Adam covenanted. I see, thanked Samus. Time for the game. The game started, and everything did good. Samus played as well as Peyton Brady, and was an accession to the team. They were losing only 23-22 at the last 30 seconds. The ball was thrown to Samus, and she touched down! But only one problem. The helmet came off! The game was won, but everyone was shocking. Ooh, girl! Crooned Kraid and gang, and Samus was embarrassed. Houston was freaking out because of the girl on team, but Adam stood in shock. Justin, you're Samus! Adam was choked into submission. Samus was embarrassed. You're fired! Houston trumped, but Adam stepped in. If she's fired, I'm fired! Adam intervened. What are the flustered the coach, but he had to give in because of civil rights amendments and the law. But there was still a problem left. But Samus, there is only one room for shower and... Samus was choked for 10 seconds and was almost embarrassing. But then she decided that, hey, girls can do anything as boys, even showering. Everyone clapped for the first girl ever to play football in Metroid High School, and she was awarded by Principal Yokoi for her attendance. Who knows? Maybe a championship. And as for Adam, well, it might be love. Conceivably.
Love?
Isn't it gripping, Ridley?
Conceivably, Adam.
I'm going to Chapter 7, Election Insurrection.
Samus Aran, what the whelm?
Mrs. Chozo freaked out at the teen. Samus had powers, but not mind control, so she couldn't figure the deal. Unfortunately, the deal was clear, because Samus had a D in his story row, and Chozo was a major. Samus, this is unacceptable under this house. You must succeed, or there will be capital punishment. Samus de facto mom vengeanced. Samus wanted to be a teen, and dissent, and eye roll, but she was afraid of her legal guardian, and didn't want to make moves that would make things mad, or she wouldn't be able to go to the mall with Helen and Mandy anymore. And what about even boys? Okay, I'll think of something, Samus casualed as she ran off to classes, leaving Chozo Mom in a dust bowl. Minorities, Mrs. Chozo backslashed. Once. In school hadn't begun, but Samus was taking time to convey the messages to her friends, and it was almost an apocalypse. My History D is going to destroy my life! Samus exclaimed to everyone in the entire city who heard. Even construction workers dropped. Okay, dude, it's not the end of the world yet. There still could be time, situation-controlled Amy, who tried her best from turning it into a disaster. But everyone knew a problem. It was only 2 weeks until grades were in, and what was there to do? Questions were stopped because... Hello, and slip, dipplin, cop, flop, clip and slip, ditch, fizzo, sliz. Principal Yokoi embarrassed. He tried to be teen, but everyone only groaned and laughed at his lack of legit. And he was embarrassed, but the news continued. Today, the majority legislature decided that if anyone in the state becomes class president, that they have an automated A in history from experience and leadership. Not everyone cared about Politibweong, but Samus liked the A clause. Note, clauses are in a constitution, or law, or something, and it says that things happen like freedom, or A's in things. In other news, Class President Candon was impeached yesterday because of stealing school money and using it to fund hedges in the parking lot and buy pork barrels for the hockey team. So there's going to be a total recall on next Tuesday. The class knew that Candon was hungry for power and food, but who would have guessed his Nixonix? And who would be drafted? Ones. Samus was on her way out of school from another day of MHS, when she heard a sketch voice echo down the corridor. Psst! Hello? Samus warded off spirits. But it wasn't a spirit, it was only Trace. Samus, the game dude was black hacking into Power School, and he noticed the problem with your history and the D. Trace intonated. Normally Samus would have freaked from the breach of Second Amendment, but she knew that Samus was a man of fine points. What are you getting to? Samus cut the chase. Hasty girl. Trace smiled with a grin. The thing is that the game dude and I formed an exploratory commission, and we've decided that you would be a possible candidate to lead the school in the total recall. And if you win, then... Trace left the rest up to Samus's imagination. Samus had never thought about policy and governmental duty before, but this was an intrigue, because she remembered the new A clause from the news this morning, and knew that if she didn't get an A somehow, that she'd have to take a fifth or suffer the consequence. I'll think about it, Samus non-committed, but secretly everyone knew the realties. It was going to be an election, but would there be an insurrection? Ones. The next day school started, Samus had already cleansed her mind, and her decision was clear. But first she had to choose to go to a party. She knew from school news that Republicans liked to kill trees, but she liked Tress, so she became Democratic. Okay, welcome to the Democrat Caucus, invited Amy to everyone, because she was the leader woman of the Democrats in school committee, and she could run meetings and primaries, and was also a speaker in school senate, but no one cares about student council, so whatever. Today is when we choose who will run for president, so if there are nominations, now's the time to commit, advocated Amy. There were heads that rolled, but in the end, people made decisions. I nominate Tio Juan, Helen endorsed her favorite boyfriend. Some people laughed at his name, but they were kicked out of the party because of anti-immigration. Okay, are there other nominees? Amy wondered aloud to the community. I nominate Samus, Adam Malkovich. He and Samus were almost going out, so this was a shoo-in. Anne. This was before Samus and Ridley met, so don't freak out, he's not forgotten, okay? Okay, that closes the nomination, so it's time to rock the votes. Amy used MTV language. So how caucuses work is that candidates stand in corners and then people walk over and whoever has more people wins and is nominated, Amy explained to multitudes. When she gave the signal, people walked over to the corners for Samus or Tio Juan. It was really close at the beginning, but near the end, more people went to Samus because not everyone was too keen on having a Mexico president, and plus Samus was kind of hot. Thank you, voters, and congratulations to Samus Aran, who will now be voted at the Total Recall. Everyone pledged delegates to the Football Queen, even Tio Juan, because he was still friends, and a Democrat. Samus had won the Democrats, but what about the election? Ones. For the rest of the day, Samus was congratulated by people in the school. Except not everyone, because Republicans were not quite as keen on Aranian policies. Before the day was over, Trace and Amy wanted to have a word with the candidate. Good job on the nomination, but here's the deal. Amy began with a sentence. The election is going to be a tough one, but you're going to have some help. Trace and I will be your campaign managers, because I can help out with Democrat votes, and Trace can use underground connections to help with election totals. Amy finished up, as Trace nodded with slyful grin. Okay, this is good, but who am I up against? Samus pondered, as she awaited results from her staffers.
At lunch, the Republicans had the primary, and Captain Falcon was chosen as the victor.
Trace slyly foxed. Helen and Samus were not pleased at the news, and reflected it with their demeanors. Captain Falcon was very popular, because he was the captain of the track team, and held every record, even some that were made up just for him. Some people said that he cheated by using a race car instead of running, but his parents had whale loads of money, so they paid judges and everyone was okay. It's time for strategy. Amy began the plan. Okay, so Captain Falcon will probably try to use money to win, but if we speak with truth and say what's right, people will vote. Amy optimized. Trace wasn't so positive because of experience in shady smoker room deals, but he knew that Samus had a shot, except there were Republicans everywhere, and it'd be a tough one. Elections had been close, but in the end, someone always won. Would it be Samus? Ones. Over the week before the election, there were many deal seals and campaigns. Captain Falcon used his money like everyone thought, and bought ads that smeared across the intercom. One even said that Samus did you-know-what with a lobbyist. For everyone unclear, lobbyists wait around in the lobby of Congress and buy drinks and tickets for senators, so they vote for high gas prices and less trees. Luckily, Samus was a Democrat, so people knew she wasn't into that whale. It was a bumpy row, but it was time for the debate. Okay, welcome to the 72 Memorial Debates. Principal Yokoi kicked off the dramatics. Everyone knows the candidates, and now it's time to hear about the issues.
The first question is for you, Mr. Falcon,
journalized Silux, the president of the class newspaper.
What are your feelings about global warming?
Captain Falcon cooled with a simmering snap.
My real question is, what are you feeling about global warming?
Falcon's sleeve stepped the issues. All of the Republicans cheered because they were too stupid to understand that Falcon had not answered questions and was only sucking his guts.
Thank you, Mr. Falcon. Dr. Samus, how do you feel about the World War III?
Silux discretionized. All eyes were on Samus as she formulated her position. But she remained cucumber cool and answered, War is not the option. But if it's necessary, then it must happen for people. Many people clapped, except for the Falcon Republicans, who were too stupid to know about wars. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the debate, and it is time to choose the candidates. But remember not to choose popular people, and only who your heart is after. Yokoi Disney channeled, but everyone knew that people would vote for the populists. But who was the most? Ones. The votes were just about to be tallied, and Samus was taking a walk through halls when she heard a strange rumbling, bumbling noise from the boiler room. What could it be? She investigated as she opened the door, and was shocked to find a political machine!
Ha ha! You caught us trying to rig votes with a copying machine!
Snaked up Captain Falcon and ex facto Candon, who were joined with other Republicans. They looked serious, but Samus was too. "This unacceptable!" Samus furied as she began to use jitsu signs and stances. But Candon summoned bodyguards. Who was it? Kraid and his gang! Luckily, Samus was used to fighting these losers, so she took them all out with her techniques and attacks, and soon they were piled on the floors.
"You may have defeated idiots, but what about me?" Captain Falcon punched
Samus, but she dodged, and dumb Will Falcon fell out of the window he punched so hard. Candon ran away because he didn't want to get caught, but Hall Monitor Noxus jailed him for conspiracies against the populace. And what about Samus?
Congratulations, President Aran.
Principal Yokoi inaugurated Samus to the presidency, and there were many cheers among the crowd, even a few rhinos who were sorta like Democrats. Everything was going well, but right as Samus signed the articles and was about to enact the A clause, a voice could be heard over the announcer.
"Hello to the people of the school! It is I, Emperor Falcon! I have taken over the office, and I am now the president of the school!"
Principal Yokoi was befuddled, but he was a bozo cop and didn't even know what to do. The school was under siege!
"My first order of business is that Samus Aran, who thinks she is president of class, is arrested for treason against Falcon government."
The captain hardlined, as you could hear Kraid and gang members in the background snacking and snickying at the situation.
"When she is arrested, she is to be killed and displayed for public appeal."
Samus's eyes narrowed. She may have won the election, but would she win the insurrection? The Metroid High School election was over. The Metroid Civil War had just begun.
Chapter 8. What happens in Chapter 8?
Chapter 8. Endgame Finale. The halls of a high school. Metroid High School. Dances, gossip, girls, students, learning. Everything had happened. Samus and Ridley's ask-out, the football, the cholera, and even the election. But now war stains ones. In the hall, civil war was raging before it had even started. Falcon's kitchen cabinet. Anne. I learned about this in U.S. history. Andrew Jackson liked his buddies, so he gave them jobs eating food and partying in the White House. Was in control of the school. Luckily, Samus and friends were not pushovers, so it was a bloody situation. Mandy and Tio Juan were two of the people who were fighting in the onslaught.
"Tio, catch!"
Helen addicted, as her Mexican caught the grenade she tossed him. With teeth, he pulled out the tad and threw, killing 7 or more Republicans. Too bad one of the key hinters still had a trick up his sleeve, and it was a pistol. It fired at Helen, mortally wounding his soulmate.
"Tio Juan,
Helen coughed, but was cut off by the river of death.
Ah, Helen!"
Tio Juan was insoluble. This turned him into a killing machine. He had lost his favorite girlfriend, his friend, for war? For what? The underground art room was where Samus, Amy, Adam, and Principal Yokoi were discussing war games, except not Warhammer or Battlefront, but the kind that countries do before a war. Except this one was already happening.
"What are we squinged?"
Principal Yokoi extruded in the room. Luckily, no one noticed his bozo fits and carried on with the meeting. "President Aran, here's the ordeal." Amy, her friend and advisor, protrude. "Falcon and the Republican Army have learned how to clone key hunters. That's why there's so many bodies everywhere." This did not look like it was going to be a happy ending, but a shadow appeared in the corner, and it was a good thing they didn't shoot it, because it was only Trace.
"If you can give me in the game due time, I believe that we can call in reinforcements,"
Trace coveted. No one liked industrial espionage, but they agreed that just like Samus said in speech, that things must be different when there's a war. "Okay, I see the ideas, but what are we going to do in the meantime?" Adam noted that there might not be enough time for Game Dude's scheme, and there were way too many enemies to take down with just posses and political allies. That's when a voice was heard at the door, and it was someone that Samus did not exactly expect.
You have my body,
Ridley Legolasted. And when everyone turned around, they saw he was Mecha Ridley, and was in a robotic combat suit like Metroid Fusion. Samus was happy to see him first, but quickly remembered everything. Sex, cholera, Cervantes. Was it too much?
Samus, I know that things have happened, and maybe I'm too manhandle, but we must fight to save the school. Let's worry about things later, because we have a lot of willing to kick right now.
Samus was speechless, but murmured, "Okay," because she knew that things were too important to bicker. The football president put on her power suit like when she played football, and together the two robotics joined the battle. There was a lot to deal, but at least they were finally together. Things were a disaster. Bodies were begging to pile, and the halls were slippery with blood. Two friends, Chris and Johnny B, were with Mandy trying to enter Falcon's office headquarters through a secret door in the underground of the school. Too bad that Falcon knew the school too and rigged it with mines. Unfortunately for Mandy, "Ah!" she exulted as her body was derailed by explosives. John and Chris felt sorry for their loss, but they knew this was the price of war, and that if they didn't stop Falcon's inflation, it would just get higher. In another part of the battlefront, Samus and Ridley were using their new armor powers to do serious damage to the enemy bodies. Ted, Robbie, Smiley, and the heartbroken Tio Juan were also contributing to the death toll, and it seemed that the tide was beginning to rise for the better. That was, until an old enemy appeared. This time for finals.
Well, 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 we meet again,
crowned Kraid and his goons.
You think you can win this war? You'll have to go through us. It's time to reveal the gang.
Everyone was shocked that the true identities were revealed of Kraid's gang members. Psylocke, Noxus, Candon, Weevil, and Spire. The gang war began as Samus, Ridley, Tio, Ted, Smiley, and Robbie got into place to fight the enemies. Ted lunged at Noxus and shanked him, but Psylocke was quick to notice and shot Ted in the foot. Both gangbangers were ended, though, when Tio Juan saved Ted's wing by firing Mexican machine guns at them, killing them in the head. Psylocke transformed into a machine gun turret and took out Robbie and part of Smiley, but Samus was quick to the draw and fired a super missile, vaporizing both Psylocke and Noxus. This did not make Candon happy, and the two ex-presidents battled it out. As usual, though, Samus ended up on top and shot electro powers into his brainstem. That left just Ridley and Kraid.
You might have won the gang war, but what about this?
Kraid injected Enzites in his arm as he began to grow massive. There was a hole in the ceiling when Kraid stopped getting bigger, and he started to stomp on students and even Ridley.
I have you in my foot!
Kraid soliloquized as he was about to step on Ridley's face, but...
Cheaters!
Mother Brain decloaked from her nun clothes and unleashed her Swiss Guard. That's the Pope Army. Hand training at Kraid and the Keith Hunters. This gave Ridley just enough time to shoot his eye lasers at Kraid's foot, knocking the evil over.
Uh-oh!
The Grand Wizard rapped, but it was too late.
Win you and Wyong!
Chanted Ridley, and stuck his suit's robo-tail in Kraid's face. It was a lot of blood, but at least the score was settled. Ones. The war was ready to wrap up, but there was one last issue. The imposter president. Samus and her remaining allies were finally able to break into his office fortress. But where was he?
Going somewhere?
There was a voice, and as they turned around, down the hall zoomed a race car that was armed like a Batman car in the Dark Knight. Captain Falcon! Samus and Co. condoled, but there was little use. Samus tried her powerful missiles at the car, but they just bounced off the hood and blew the doors off classrooms, exposing the children. Ridley used his mecha suit powers to try to stomp the car, but Captain was too fast with his driving and dodged. His turn.
Let's see who's the real president now, Weong!
Captain Falcon bellowed the car intercom and used his presidential codes to arm the rocket tube with a mini nuke. When it fired, everyone was sure that this was the end of Samus. But just in time, her boyfriend jumped in front of the missile and took the blast himself. Luckily, his suit was radiation resistant. Unfortunately, the nuke blast damaged it beyond repair. Ridley was down, and so was Samus.
Ha ha ha! My ride is indestructible!
Falcon bandstanded.
There isn't a single weapon on Earth that can defeat my Juggernougget!
That's what we're here for!
A sudden voice blasted through the roof, and when the dust cleared, there were 4 figures. It was Shasokais, Ethereal, Kroot, and Taldeer from Dark Crusade High School. And this part was written when Cervantes and I were still internet dating. That's long gone, but why waste the story?
I told you guys that reinforcements were on the way.
The game dude and Trace revealed over the intercom, and Samus and Ridley were relieved, but not Captain Falcon.
Time to seal the deal!
Kroot landowed, and while he and Ethereal distracted the Falcon car by racing it through the hall at top gear, Taildreer and Shash did a power combine for one final blow. When the car rounded down the last corner, it unleashed, totaling the Jugger car and ending the driver. There were still last words, however.
I may be dead, but you still lose. You still got the cholera. You're dead as mine.
The dead president gurgled as Samus, so only she could hear him. The war was over, but the girl knew he was right. It was only a matter of time. The number 1, repeated 120 times. Few people survive in war, but for those who do, it's worth it to save lives. This is what Samus was explaining to the survivors of Metroid High School. All her remaining friends were there, and so were her mom, Mrs. Chozo, and Dog Sparky. Samus was giving a great speech, but she felt the darkness taking hold. Dark Samus and the cholera were finally taking over her body. When she collapsed on the floor, people began to crowd around and cry. "Please, is there a way?" Ridley cried out to the gods. "There is," confirmed Dr. Bannis, who drove up to the podium in a sports car, and revealing a hypodermic needle of serum in it. "You found a cure!" Everyone cheered. Dr. Bannis turned to her patient. "I may not agree with your sex, but I won't see a patient suffer, even a sin widow." The doctor Hippocrates and injected the liquid into Samus's body. The cholera syndromes began to fade away, but the Dark was not ready to give up without a fight. "Arg!" Samus coughed blood, and a white began to flash. As Samus convulsed, Dark Samus began to materialize outside of her body.
Ha 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 ha!
Dark Samus satanically echoed.
Thanks to your cure, I'm finally free.
Dark Samus started running around, taking down students and teachers, and eating their souls to gain power. Now that she was cured, Samus was at full power, and did her best to fight Dark Samus before it inflicted too many casualties. Unfortunately, Dark Samus was already far too powerful, and all that Samus could do was knock the helmet off of its body to reveal its identity. No one could have expected the truth. "Coach Houston! You're Dark Samus?" The entire school was shocked in disbelief. Houston only smiled with all his teeth.
I admit I made the cholera. I couldn't have Ridley and Samus be dating because she needs to be a team player and boyfriends take time.
Houston explained from experience.
There is nothing more important than sports, and you can't stop me!
Not exactly.
At that moment, the doors flew open and there was the sound of a gunshot. At the door was President Gerald Ford. Finally spelled it right, if you're wondering he was still president when Metroid High School took place. With a sniping pistol in his hand, and 50 Secret Service agents who took control of the situation. Houston was choked. His idol had just shot him in the face.
But you played football! Why?
Houston was confounded in the final moments of his life. But Ford explained.
Everyone, sports can be fun to play and are good for bodies. But sometimes people take it too far. It's not worth it to make biological terror or start wars. But as long as you keep it clean, keep it real.
The real president finished the speech. And with that, he returned to the White House, leaving Ridley and Samus alone. Everything was just about sorted out, but there was still one last thing that was troubling Ridley's mind. Samus could tell because they had been going out for a time, and she inquisited. Ridley, what's the issue?
Well, it's only 3 more days until the big prom, and... I know we're not together anymore.
Ridley shuffled uncomfortably, but Samus was warm with a kiss. Ridley, I can't stay mad at you. You know the love when you feel it. And they kissed in front of the entire remaining school. Everyone cheered, including Principal Yokoi, Shas, Tio Juan, Amy, Mrs. Chozo, and even Cervantes cracked a grin.
Well,
Thought Ridley for the final time.
I'm the luckiest guy in the universe.
Epilogue, 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 epilogue. Samus and Ridley went to prom together as a couple. But Samus' ex-boyfriends didn't do so bad at all. Cervantes went with 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006 because they were both angsty and fought cool. And Amy went with Adam, not just because of their shared letters, but they had other commons. In George Bush's last moment in office, he excommunicated all aliens, so Tio Juan had to go back to Mexico in the middle of the night. Too bad for Bush. He ran for president of Mexico and won. My dad told me that Mexico will probably be more powerful than the United States in a few years, so that's not so bad. Principal Yokoi decided to retire after the events, but then he learned how to make video games for Nintendo and made the game Metroid based on everything that happened at Metroid High School. As for Samus and Ridley, they decided to stick together and see what happens. They decided to postpone the pregnancy until after marriage, because even though Juno is a movie, teens don't always make parents in real life. And the next time they had, Samus remembered to have her own pregnancy test. Oh my. Oh my. It's over. The story's over.
Samus,
You don't have to say anything, Ridley. I finally understand why you chose to sit here and commentate with me over this old game. I finally remember. Metroid High School was not a mistaken account of what we got up to in high school. It was what happened to us in high school. How did I forget? My mind, for some reason, blocked it out, but reading through the story, reliving the passions and adventures that we got up to, has brought it all back. I did have friends. I did go to high school. I did have feelings. I did speak in more than one tone of voice. And Ridley, you and I were lovers.
I tried to forget myself after what happened, and after what happened...
After what happened? I remember now. Ridley, I became cold and detached from the world, always focusing on the mission and survival. I shut myself off from the world and from you, and I let myself forget the love we shared. That's why you fled to Mother Brain, to the space pirates. I now remember, Ridley, that I loved you back then. And I now realize, Ridley, that I still love you now.
You... still...
Yes, Ridley. I'm sorry for what I've done to you. I'm sorry for what I've put you through. Ridley, why?
I thought you...
I thought you'd never remember. I thought you'd never love me again. By denying my true feelings for you, back then, I sent you on the road to darkness, just as I traveled the road back then. The road of Cervantes. Why didn't you say, Ridley? You should have told me about the cholera back then. And you should have told me about this. But it's okay now, Ridley. Because Cervantes no longer has any power over me. I am my own woman again. And you, Ridley, are my one true love. I love you, Ridley. But do you still love me? Of course I do. I never stopped. I'm so happy. Then does that mean you'll take me back? Ridley, I could give a clinical, factually valid answer to that question. Instead of that, however, shut up and kiss me. How does that make you feel, Ridley?
It makes me feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the universe!
That's what I thought. After so many years apart, we are bound together in love once again. And it's all thanks to 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006.
Yes, thank you, 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006.
Wherever you are now, we are eternally grateful to you for what you have done. The depression into which I fell following the death of the baby is the reason why I chose to replay this game. But while those events are still tragic, and I am sorrowful for the baby, I now realize there can always be another baby. Wait a minute. I just remembered. In that last game of mine, I did encounter you, Ridley. I seem to recall that...
Yes? What? Oh no. I thought you'd forgotten. Nothing can traumatize you, indeed. Yo ho ho! I am out of here.